out of here before night. Vice Chair Lewis said, thank God. All right, so we will officially call this meeting to order. Let's have a moment of silence. Amen. Now we will have a roll call. Vice Chair Lewis.
Here.
Commissioner Pantazis.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. I know she's on her way, so she's not here yet. And Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Right, great. That will create a quorum. So we are officially in business. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with the following caveats. On item 6, as recognition of HABD Employee of the Month, that should be for February and not January. Ms. Yamika Foy was our January Employee of the Month. So that will be one change. The other change is item 14 under public safety. We're actually going to address that item after the executive session. So with those two amendments, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda with the two amendments.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda with the aforementioned two edits. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, that item carries. Now we have the approval of the minutes. Commissioners, I trust that you have taken the opportunity to review the minutes of the regular board meeting from January 20th, as well as our special board meeting on January 31st. If you had an opportunity to review those minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes for the regular January 20th and the special meeting for January 31st.
I second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from regular meeting January 20th, 2022, and special meeting January 31st, 2022. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries. All right, old business. Any old business? You have any old business, Ms. Foster?
None at this time.
Hearing none, we'll go to new business.
Two small things just to kind of, they're kind of old business, but also new business in the sense that I'm bringing them up again this year. One thing that we had mentioned in the past was doing some of our meetings at our sites. And, you know, it doesn't have to be, I know we still got some transition stuff going on, but I'd love to keep that on the, you know, agenda for the year to try and find some times to do that and to really engage with some of our residents and clients in that manner. And then the second thing is just keeping an eye on the process of boosting our internet at all of our sites and providing Wi-Fi for all of our residents in a way that is more cost effective and more powerful, particularly in light of so much being done remotely these days. And obviously the issues that occurred during COVID. I know we had looked into some quotes in the past, and I don't know where we ultimately landed on kind of where we're going to table those, but obviously with infrastructure bill stuff that's out there, I assume there's some ways for us maybe to continue looking at that. So I know that this isn't an item that we were prepared to discuss today, and so I'm not asking that, but just something I'd like to put on kind of heart, you know, something to think about.
I can actually just share some information on both. We can definitely have a schedule put together for the meeting at the sites that you all can review. And if you have a preference on which sites you like to, you know, view first, you know, you can get that to us and we'll have the agenda set up for you. And as relates to the internet, we have done some quotes and do have one particular company lined up. What we did was last month we applied for some funding and from a grant, and we're waiting a response from that grant. And also moving forward as we're doing our budget for the fiscal year 2023, we're looking to put a line item to assist with those funding as well. So
Okay, that's great.
yeah, something lined up.
I guess with that, where you was talking about the sites, which sites, he was speaking of having the board meeting there. So I'm not sure which actual sites have places where we could actually have the meeting.
Okay,
You know, if you can let us know which places actually have rec centers or places that we can have a meeting, that'd be helpful.
yes, we'll get that
Okay.
list to you. The kind of counterparts where we had a discussion on yesterday too, so you
Okay,
know what sites have community centers and gymnasiums.
that's good. Thank you.
Nice, good points. Any other new business? All right, if not, we'll go to the interim president CEO's report. Ms. Foster?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and everyone that's present today. I want to start my report by first thanking the Board of Commissioners for appointing me as the interim president and CEO with the confidence in leading the agency forward during this transition. I am confident with the continued support of the board and the dedication of our HABD staff that we will forge forward to the success of the agency. And again, I want to say thank you.
Thank you for stepping up and taking a leadership role. And let me say this. You know, it would keep me up at night having somebody in this role who was not as capable, as qualified, and as trusted as you. I'm telling you, I've slept really well since we made this appointment. I don't know about y'all. So I just really appreciate this. I know it's your third time stepping up and serving in this role. I know everybody in here probably feels good knowing that Ms. Foster's in this role. So again, thank you for
Thank you.
doing this.
And it helps to have a supportive team, so I appreciate, all the support I get from the HABD staff as well. So thank you.
Right. And, a lot of you may not know, but ever since we made the leadership change, I've been meeting weekly with Ms. Foster, as well as Mr. Jones and Mr. Emery. And then me and Ms. Foster sometimes speak once a day, twice a day. And she really just keeps me up to date on what's going on in the agency. So I think with the entire leadership team, like I feel really good. Ms. Jefferson Mitchell, we've spent time together. She's kind of presented some things that's going on with HR, Ms. Drake as well. So, and Mr. Foreman. So we're in good shape as it relates to this agency.
Thank you. And as a part of my report, I want to also include that we had an all-staff meeting, which was held to encourage the, I always got to bring things lower. Okay, an all-staff meeting was held to encourage the employees that we will continue to move the agency forward to make the clients we serve our top priority. The organizational chart, the job descriptions, and the HR policy were distributed to all the employees and uploaded to the Lightwork system, which is the payroll system that they have, so it can be for their review. We are working with departments to outline the operation of the agency for fiscal year 2023. A draft of the annual plan is currently posted for comments. A draft of that plan will be shared with the board so that we can have comment after the comment period, and then we'll have a public hearing in April 2022. Okay. The finance department is also evaluating the budget for the revision for the fiscal year 2023. An upcoming work session for the board will also be scheduled. The reorganization is underway. Interviews for the HR department have been completed, and we are currently interviewing the director level positions. A calendar was created for the board to include the regularly scheduled board meetings and other upcoming events. We did update the HUD systems, and the HUD system has your email for the HABD email. So we want to encourage all commissioners to please use your HABD email so you can get the information from HABD and HUD. Okay. HABD, the Birmingham Police Department, and Mayor Randall Wolfen we were joined a press conference announcing the arrest and the homicide investigation of 2-year-old Major Turner, who was killed on HABD property a little bit over a year ago. So that was a pleasure to get that information. Staff is working to update and simplify the performance reporting for HABD properties that include public housing, housing choice voucher, community engagement department, and our Office of Constituents of Concerns. We was able to share that snapshot with Commissioner Fantastic, and he was able to share some suggestions to improve the snapshot performance of the snapshots. And we're going to make those adjustments, and we'll have those shared with the board next month and moving forward. Okay. HABD applied for the landlord incentive cohort, but under the moving to work. And unfortunately, we received an email that we were not selected for the moving to work designation. The Office of Constituent Concerns received a total of 80 concerns, 54 concerns were for Section 8, and 26 concerns were for housing operations. A complete rate of 100% was achieved for the period. And as one of the information I want to share that's not on my report. And that was, we met with the residents at Southtown Court on yesterday to discuss and share design updates. And we've heard the voice from the residents, and we will continue to meet with them so that we can have more engagement and understanding how they want to, things they want to see moving forward. So again, want to thank Commissioner Lewis and Commissioner Barnes for attending and sharing their support on yesterday. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Foster, President Foster on the report?
I have one. On the landlord to work, when the one that we did not get, do they give like a report on like what we could do better in or what we can do to get it next time?
So we did submit information and requesting a debriefing, so we're waiting to hear back from them.
Okay.
Because we was actually waiting on a formal notification, but we never received that. It just came through an email, so we're waiting on a response back from them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd like to put that as an agenda item at some point when, at least we can be debriefed on that.
Thanks. Right, thank you, President Foster. Now we'll entertain the financial services report.
Michael Jones, our CFO, Financial Services.
Thank you, President Foster. Good afternoon, Chairman Hood, Board Commissioners, management and staff of HABD, and most importantly, our clients and residents. You all noticed me don my Mardi Gras beads today in honor of Fat Tuesday. Normally on this day, I'm perched atop a Mardi Gras float throwing beads with my New Orleans crew. I thought maybe if I'd invited Chairman Hood to ride with me this year, we may all be excused today.
We would have. You should have done that.
So next time. However, on a more serious note, I present the net financial position of the low-income housing and housing choice voucher programs of HABD for the period ending November 30th, 2021. We're going to do a screen share here as the spreadsheet won't fit into PowerPoint's parameters. Quick summary, we have a $388,000 variance. I'm sorry. One second. HC had revenues of approximately $3,063,000 against expenses of $2,631,000 for an increase in net position for the period of $433,000. You're not able to see that on this screen. That's just a quick summary of operations for the period. Now, if you'll train your eyes to the line items highlighted in blue, I'll explain the significant fluctuations in the variance of each highlighted line item. So first, we have a $388,000 variance in the labor, benefits, and materials line item. This variance exists as we budgeted an additional $3.5 million in capital funds. That's to catch up on the needed deferred maintenance. These funds have been drawn down from the capital fund and deferred maintenance has begun on several of our properties. So these expenses, as these expenses are incurred, you should see an evening out of this variance. Next, let's train your eyes to the $67,000 variance in the protective services line item. This variance is due to non-receipt of BPD invoices for service at that time. But we have since received and paid outstanding invoices through December 31st, 2021 for protective services. Next, please train your eyes to the $43,000 variance in the other general expenses line item. This is due to a portion of these line item expenses being reclassed to administrative salaries and benefits during the current fiscal year budget preparation. We have since collectively decided it best to reclass these back to the proper line item during the upcoming fiscal year budget preparation, and therefore this variance will go away. And finally, please train your eyes to the $56,000 variance in the insurance expense line item. This is due to new insurance company policies binding at increased amounts after the current fiscal year budget was prepared. We are working to get back in the insurance pool as soon as possible and should then experience a reduction in premiums and collectibles. Those are the variants of significance this period. I will entertain any questions at this time.
Any questions, commissioners?
I don't have any.
No questions?
Okay, so there being none, that concludes my presentation of the low-income housing and housing choice voucher programs net position. But next, we're going to move to the charge-offs for January of 2022. All right, so we have charge-offs for potential charge-offs for January 2022. We have uncollectibles in rent of $61,429, as well as uncollectible maintenance and legal charges of $8,769, less forfeited security deposits of $600, gives us a $69,598 uncollectible expense for the month of January. Could you scroll down a little up some, please? If it will. But we have, this month, we had no collections from MIS, which is customary this time of year. I went back a couple of years to see what the collection rate was in January and February of the year, and they were all either zero or very low. But we do anticipate after state tax season and taxes are filed and a lot of those garnishments come in, then that number will increase again. This is like the only month of the year that we really have zero collections. Normally we have some type of recovery of these uncollectible amounts. So the total projected uncollectibles are $69,598. If there are no questions at this time, I'll ask the board's permission to charge off these amounts as uncollectible.
Make a motion that we approve the charge-offs for January 2022.
All right. It's been moved and properly second that we approve charge-offs for the period ending January 2022. Commissioner Fantasia, like you had a question before we proceed with that.
I was just going to talk about it a little bit, but I'm okay to approve it though. So we want to go ahead and finish that. We can. It was just more
Let's
for-
go ahead and entertain that before we.
Okay, so these charge-offs are kind of significantly higher than any month last year. I assume that, although I didn't see the January numbers from last year, so maybe they're the same or close, but I assume that's typically because we don't usually do this a lot over the holidays, and so these numbers are a little larger.
That's partially the response. And second is end of year doing rent rolls and getting caught up on collecting the bad rent for that month. So all of it has to do with end of year. And again, being that part of the year where we don't really enforce it as much, looking at the holidays.
And then just following up a little more too, as far as evictions and scenarios where we had delayed those activities, due to COVID and everything last year, has there been an uptick in that sort of scenario that we haven't been able to forgive? And if so, is that part of this reasoning too for having an increase?
Partially, and as far as forgiving, we've worked with the city of Birmingham to receive some funds to kind of fill that gap from the moratorium on eviction. and those unpaid rents. And so we're working now with our development core to bring those funds in to be reimbursed for this type of expense.
Okay, so is that something you anticipate seeing in the coming months, a way to offset?
Well,
some
now
of
that
these?
the moratorium is lifted, that number should go down tremendously. I would think so.
Okay. All right, yeah, I mean, I'm okay to approve it. I assume there's some more narrative around these numbers and.
Sure.
And I do, if I may add
Sure.
also, and you're correct about when the moratorium was lifted, there was delay and hold on even sheriff set outs and so forth. So we are all that being cleaned up through our eviction attorney. So that's where a lot of those numbers are coming from as well.
And my natural thought on that is, one, making sure that, there's some explanation behind these numbers while they're higher from a fiscal standpoint, but then two, out of concern for our residents and those that can't make payments and things, where are we now as an agency in addressing some of those issues now that there aren't so many protections in place?
Yeah, and we're also looking forward to bringing a report next month because we did our first round of paying funds to some of those residents that got affected due to the COVID. And so based off the grant we received from the city, $800,000, we're able to use those funds to help them pay their rent. So you'll get a report based off that in the next meeting.
Okay, and I guess for those that obviously have been affected by these charge-offs here, are our residents notified that these options are available to them for forgiveness, or that they were in the past, so that we can somewhat assume that they've had the opportunity to have that addressed, and it just was, for whatever reason, not something that worked out, and this is where we kind of landed with this increase?
Yes, we have our community engagement department and our property management department reaching out to all the residents that were behind on their rent, give them an opportunity to do an application. And when they do the application, they have to submit to us information saying how being behind the rent it was affected based on the pandemic. So we're getting information from them, and they're like the number goes up weekly. So we did a first submission. I think we paid about $200-some thousand
Yes.
paying towards rent. So
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Would this come through a manager's office? Would the manager be the one that oversee for their site?
the management and the
Mhm.
community engagement, they're working hand in hand. So it's coming from the property management office, but the community engagement assistant reaching out to those individuals.
Okay, I just,
Sounds like you guys are all on top of it. So look forward to hear more in maybe the next report where we
Yes.
can kind of see where all that stands.
We have some
Thank
great
you.
numbers.
Absolutely.
And just one request that I would have, I know in our packet, you have the monthly charge offs going back to February.
yeah.
I'll just ask you add one more month so that, to his point, we can see January a year ago, we can actually see year over year change. That'll kind of help in our comparison going forward.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the motion. So
Getting back to that.
Yeah.
kind of hold it up.
All right. So it's been moved and properly second that we approve the charge offs for the period ending January 2022. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that item passes.
Thank you. With that, that concludes my financial services presentation for this meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you good, you good. Y'all please forgive me. I skipped 2 whole agenda items. Ain't nobody said nothing.
No, we thought you had
I did not. I don't know how I missed that.
Thought you was on a mission.
She's so funny.
Look, I know we got a packed agenda. I'm trying to get y'all out of here, but Miss Bills, you too, you look.
Yep.
Throw something at me next time. Okay, all right. So if it pleases this body, we will go back up to the top. Was you gonna say something? Mr. Okay, it pleases the body. We will go back up to election of officers for calendar year 2022 that I missed. And our General Counsel Attorney French, keep me sharp on this.
Yes, sir.
He did ask.
Yeah, I sent her a note earlier.
Yeah.
So Attorney French, we will have 2 officer positions that we will be electing, chair and vice chair. Do we start with one over the other? Or does it start the chair? All right, great. So commissioners, I will entertain nominations for the position of chair for calendar year 2022.
Commissioner, I nominate Commissioner Anthony Hood to remain Commissioner Chairman.
A second.
I third.
Okay.
Well, I think what we open the floor for nominations and then we vote on the nominees, right?
Well,
Yes.
if there's only one, there could be a motion to close nominations, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right.
And if there are no other nominations, the motion to close is in order.
Gotcha.
There'll be
All
no
right.
more.
Any other nominations for chair?
No.
Motion to close, well, Commissioner Thompson's here. She may want to.
Mention it.
That'd be fun.
There's a
Hey, honey.
motion on the floor to nominate those for chairman. And
Oh.
Commissioner Hood has been renominated. by Commissioner Lewis.
Is that so?
Yes.
Do you have another nomination?
I do not.
Okay.
Motion to close the nominations.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second that we close the nominations for chair with the single nominee as Anthony C. Hood. At this point,
By acclamation.
approved by acclamation. All right,
Yeah, but you can still ratify it if you want to, just all in favor, just for the record.
gotcha. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you for your trust and support. All right, now the floor is open for nominations for vice chair.
Can I make another nomination?
You can make a
Okay,
nomination.
well. As vice chair, I would like to make a motion to nominate Dennis Fantasis as vice chair.
Okay, so Commissioner Pantasis has been nominated for vice chair for 2022. Any other nominations for vice chair? Not, I entertain a motion to close the nominations for vice chair.
Okay.
Motion to close the nominations for vice chair.
All right. A second?
I second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and probably second that we close the nominations for vice chair with the single nominee being Dennis G. Pantasis Jr.
All right.
And that item,
By acclamation, he is, but for the record, I would just ratify it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just.
Okay. All in favor of Commissioner Pantasis being vice chair, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Vice Chairman.
Thank you to all, and thank you, Commissioner Lewis, for nominating me. It means a lot. I'll do my best to follow in your footsteps.
Okay.
All right. So thank y'all for allowing me to go back and doing that. Now, the other item that I missed earlier was recognition of our HABD employee for the month of February 2022.
Kalanda Jefferson Mitchell, Director of Human Capital.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Essie Brown is currently employed as the Community Center Program Specialist at our Illiton Village site under the Community Engagement Department. Ms. Brown has been with the Housing Authority for almost 3 years. She has provided outstanding customer service by going above and beyond her required job duties. Ms. Brown has overseen and assisted in many community engagement initiatives, such as the DHR initiative, where she educates the importance of the DHR programs to the clients. She has recruited many clients to attend the Operation Shades program, Women's Empowerment Conference, and recruited many elderly clients to get vaccinated by informing them about free COVID-19 vaccination at the Cooper Green site. Her proactiveness has garnered exemplary attendance in these programs because she goes out into the community and knocks on doors, sets up Zoom meetings, and calls the clients. Ms. Brown works tirelessly, making sure the clients are aware of HABD programs, as well as making sure they are in attendance. Her social services skills are modeled as she always greets everyone. She meets with a smile on her face. Her confidence and her commitment to excellence make her a great candidate for this award. She is also recognized for her significant contribution to HABD's mission and goals. We would like to introduce the February Employee of the Month, Ms. Etsy J. Brown. She is on the Zoom.
I see her looking beautiful. Hey, Ms. Brown, would you like to have any words, Ms. Brown? You're on mute right now.
How do we scroll up? There she is. She got on the black and white.
Okay, I'm off. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The recognition is greatly appreciative. But as I tell the staff and everybody, Ms. Matthews, Ms. Turner, Ms. Foster and all whom I greet, on a daily basis, sometime we have our meetings, I come to work to serve, and that's what I do. And I appreciate truly to be recognized this day as the Employee of the Month, but I consider myself the Employee of the Month every day. I
That's right.
step and walk to
That's
HABD
right.
facility. Thank you,
Ms. Brown.
guys. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your service.
Thank you.
Brown said they done forgot about me. They just went on.
Yes.
I'm glad you stayed on.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ms. Foster will now have the assisted housing in Section 8. Report.
Candy Drake, VP of Assistant Housing.
Good afternoon.
Good
And
afternoon.
congratulations to you guys, Chair and Co-Chair. Thank you for allowing me to present this action today at today's meeting. Today, I have one request for board action approval, which is revision to the Section 8 administrative plan. We are requesting to add a new preference to our administrative plan for litigation purposes and to assign 5 points to the said preference. The definition will be defined as having a person or persons who has undergone legal actions related to resolving a dispute through the judicial court system or as part of a settlement agreement and a housing choice voucher was selected. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions, commissioners?
And just for a little clarity as to, I think, why we were doing this, basically, it allows for a certain preference, obviously, if this scenario occurs. So there might be some reasons that that is necessary. And so this kind of gives a catch-all bucket for that category.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great. Well, there are no questions. I entertain a motion to make this change to the Section 8 administrative plan.
Or I'll motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we make the aforementioned revisions to the Section 8 administration plan. All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that item carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. And now we have a real estate development report.
We have Christy Hilliard, our project analyst, real estate project analyst.
Good afternoon, commissioners, Ms. Foster, and all guests. Hope you can hear me. If we could allow, if any questions, we have the support of our consultant on the virtual. She can be unmuted. She's probably under Lucinda, or it's just Cindy. Okay, we bring forth one recommendation for approval of change orders for Southtown demolition contract. The resolution is to approve the change order for the contract with Bostic Trucking for demolition of Southtown public housing. The purpose of this request is to ratify a previous change order and obtain approval of 3 additional change orders to remove the retaining wall on University, the removal of additional sanitary sewer lines and gas lines, and to cover the remediation costs for asbestos that was previously identified, that was not previously identified in the environmental assessment of the project. The cost, let's see here. Put it up on screen. So Previous HABD procurement guidelines require board approval for contract costs in excess of 150,000. The change orders that we're presenting under this resolution are the $32,000 for the removal of the retaining wall, the $24,851 for the sanitary and gas lines, and the $232,443 for the additional asbestos. We have any questions?
Any questions, commissioners?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Okay.
For
Um,
Pull the mic to you a little bit.
So I mean, obviously, just kind of looking at the overall picture, that's a lot of money.
Right.
And it, for the most part, looks like things that should have been addressed before.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of, is there any explanation as to, who was responsible for determining whether or not there was asbestos in the locations? I think it's crawl space and attic. I mean, that doesn't seem like, areas that needed additional investigation other than a, kind of an eye test sort of thing. So I'm just I'm concerned as to where the accountability is on, who was supposed to determine whether this was there initially, and then why we're just now hearing that this needs to be done.
So to answer a little bit, and Cindy, you could chime in if you need to.
Okay.
Part of the original assessment was done with, I think, respect to how demolition was going to go first. It wasn't in HABD's hands at first. That's one thing. Then two, SHPO, State Historic Preservation requirements, required for additional look into things for negotiation and mediation, which in return, when we put the bid out, our engineering firm and civil firm felt as if professionally, the press for getting a response to the proposal was for first phase of demolition. And so with the process and timeline, they had to go back after getting awarded. Changes came and an addendum came after the bid was out. And so that calls for additional look. The sanitary sewer line and gas line are things that kind of a little bit beyond our control in terms of what is happening underground, okay? But it's the removal of the retaining wall, that was just an oversight. We've worked to negotiate the cost of that, and that's what we've come to.
Let me just add a little bit, if you would, please, Christy. As far as the asbestos, the Housing Authority had an environmental consultant who had to test for asbestos prior to the development of the specifications. That environmental consultant tests a percentage of units and a percentage of the spaces, and then based on that, basically calculates the square footage of asbestos that has to be remediated. What was found is when the buildings first came down, the actual demo contractor found, particularly under the ground, in the crawl spaces, additional piping. On the inside of that piping, there was additional asbestos, which would have been difficult for the environmental consultant to have found at the time they did the initial assessment. We then called our environmental consultant back, who had done the original assessment, and had them come back once the buildings were open to do the additional testing. And so based on that additional testing, there was a significant amount of more of asbestos than what was originally there. So as far as accountability, I think the environmental consultant followed standard business practices for what's done to assess the level of asbestos. And just simply, there were things found under the building. In retrospect, obviously, hindsight's 2020. There should have been a larger allowance in the contract to accommodate for unknown asbestos, because there should have been an anticipation that there was unknown asbestos, given the age and condition of this property. So it was really the environmental consultant, and then the architect and engineers, did the specifications based on the information provided by the environmental consultant.
Just following, thank you for the explanation, but are there any other alternatives that have been considered other than simply just paying what has been requested?
No, we've actually gone through this in great detail, both with our environmental consultant, and we have a pretty detailed environmental report to update this as far as linear feet and the amount of additional asbestos that was found. And we have vetted this quite a bit with we have vetted this thoroughly, I believe, with the consultant and the architect and the remediation company. And I don't think that there are really any options available. Asbestos is something that you have to remediate to federal environmental standards. And there really is not any good options. It really was just a level of asbestos that, again, should have been captured as part of a larger allowance in the initial specifications and was not. And so, like I say, we have vetted that, but I don't see any real I don't see any alternatives to having to remediate the asbestos.
I'll let everybody else chime in, but obviously it's just concerning to see that big of a change order request, particularly when it does appear that some of this should have been caught earlier.
Okay.
At the same time, it seems like our hands are tied to some extent that we have to get this done.
Correct.
So I'll probably be in favor of it, assuming there's not any other issues with others, but going forward though, and I know we've talked about this in the past, when we have significant change order requests like this, I think we need to make sure, and we may already have a system for it, but we need to monitor these requests and the entities involved that made them. So if there is an environmental group that has supposedly done the work, and then we find out there's a $230,000 variance here, we need to at least know that the next time that we're looking at a bid for a job. And the same thing goes for a demo company and an architect and anybody else. So I don't know if that's something that's in the procurement office or in the actual development group, but one way or another, that needs to be part of our analysis moving forward. And I hope that we're documenting the files anytime this occurs, particularly with some of these bigger developments that have bigger change order requests like this.
Yes, and I do want to add, Commissioner Pantassis, during the process of viewing these change orders when they came to us, let me state it this way. The in-house team thought that it was a threshold of $250,000 as it relates to change orders that did not have to come before the board. And so when it was realized that that threshold was at 150,000, that's why we had to come back and bring it before the board now, saying these things need to be approved, prior to moving forward. So, and we've had our real estate committee meeting with Commissioner Hood and determined, any other avenue we can do. So we don't have to pay out this much money. We've identified it all, and also, I addressed the issues with the architect to see what can be done. And so it was one of those situations that, there was no other alternative but to move forward to change or bring before the board.
And obviously some certain things happen. I mean, when you get underneath and you're looking at sanitation and gas lines, and there may just be something that is under there that you wouldn't have ever been able to see. That happens. But I do think if we can make sure we're monitoring for patterns in these requests, I think we just need to be careful.
We are very much, and we've had lengthy discussion with the architects and engineers for this project because there has been some concern as to how some of these things have been missed. And so we've had some serious discussion with them about our concerns with that. And they have provided us with, we've had them provide written justifications for these things. And, we've vetted them with the architects, the engineers, and with the contractors as well. So I agree with you, sir, that this should not occur. And that, I remain perplexed, and Ms. Foster and I have discussed the concern about, this contract not having the thoroughness that it may have, that was warranted prior to moving forward. So I agree that there's some concern, and we are working through it.
I have certainly expressed my displeasure with this process in our real estate committee meetings. That being said, some things are certainly outside of control. I think there are certainly some concerns that I have around competence. And I think that it would be very short-sighted for any contractor to potentially, I'll say this, potentially gouge us on prices. I'm not saying that happens, but it'd be particularly short-sighted given that we're going to have to do this 6 more times in the next 15 years.
Yes.
That you might make a little bit extra money now, but you might be cutting yourself out of a whole lot of business in the
Yeah.
future.
Yes.
I certainly hope that they take that into their consideration. Also, there's going to be a lot more cooperation between our agency and other agencies in town. And so whatever experience that we have here at the Housing Authority will also be shared with the airport, with the waterworks, so that if there are patterns that we perceive, then this is going to have a ripple effect, I think, on certain contractors' ability to get other work in this town.
Yeah. And we are ensuring that our files are dictated and such.
And one last thing, and I think Cindy, you brought this up, there was kind of a documentation or at least explanation. We've heard kind of the underground sort of issues, the retaining wall though. Is that something that they've provided any explanation as to how that issue was missed, seeing as it might have been above ground and easier to figure out?
The response that we got from the architect and engineer is that it just simply wasn't included in the specifications. And that's been some of our concern about the professionals engaged on this job.
Do our contracts in those instances still, I mean, it seems like that's kind of up for them to share the expense on.
There's really, we've had legal look at this. There's from our real estate legal folks that we work with regularly. I don't think there's really nothing in the contract that really gives us a strong place to go with that. We certainly can have them review it again, but the contracts for A&E just aren't quite set up that way, that give us that kind of teeth to be able to really hold their feet to the fire for something like that. It can be seen as just a professional oversight and not really, any kind of, inappropriate, anything that would be inappropriate. So we certainly could have them look at it again, but the A&E contracts are pretty standard, and they're really, unless it's gross negligence, it's really difficult to pursue it from that standpoint.
So one of the things that I've expressed is we need to make sure that we're capturing lessons learned from this, that we can carry forward in our next contracts and our next dealings. Because again, we're going to have to do this several other times in the next several years.
I do have a question. And forgive me because we can't scroll, but I was sitting up here asking Commissioner Pantasis. So when these variances happen, where in the budget is this 230,000 coming from? Because I'm just confused as to how do we cover, because I can't see it on here.
Okay. It's from the federal capital fund grant 2020.
Right.
And we do have a line item for demolition. And so,
Right.
and one of the concerns, the reason this was brought also for the board is because we had some contingency funds for situations that occur. And this has exhausted our contingency.
That's what I
funds.
was just about to ask. How does this impact the next? Okay.
It's in the this is funded by the capital fund budget, and it just requires us to allocate additional funds to this line item within that budget from that grant. And so the 2020 grant would be, there would be funds reallocated for this line item.
But and based on what you said, I guess the concern there is that just in the demo phase, we've already exhausted
Exactly.
our reserve there. Is there a reserve for the building phase as well as a line item, or is this?
We're not actually doing the building. It's being funded through private resources, equity, tax credit equity. We will be doing a secondary soft fund for the senior component, which we'll bring back to the board when we're ready to move forward with that. But that actually has decreased significantly from what was in the original development agreement. We've been able to work with the developer, and the original commitment that the authority made for the redevelopment was $5.5 million, and we've reduced that to 1.5 million. So we've actually been able to work with the developer to significantly reduce the secondary financing that the authority had committed to.
Okay.
So that's good news.
Yeah, we'll take
To the tune of $4 million by working through a different scenario. So
And great question. You asking all the right questions.
it was a great question. Absolutely. Great question. So we're not on the development piece yet, but we will bring that back with good news. we don't always have bad news. We have good news too. So, but this is just, this contract is going to be challenging, and we have some other issues which we'll bring back to the board as we move forward. But for now, these change orders are really holding up the continuation of the demolition, and we certainly don't want to do that. We have a kind of some urgency to get Block D finalized so that the developers can come in and be able to have the site ready for their new development.
And may I add, I just want to share that we have James Hawkins in the audience. He's been promoted to a project analyst position. He was our lead construction inspector. So he's going to be extra eyes and ensuring that some of those things are being looked at as well. Make sure, James.
If y'all haven't written about it in a while, I encourage you to do so. It's
It is
totally
like-
changing right now. Any other questions for Ms. Hilliard?
I appreciate all the details. Thank you.
Alrighty. So do we,
We'll need to vote to approve these charge offs. So no other questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve the charge offs.
No.
I'm sorry. No, thank you.
Change order.
Approval, yes, approval of the change order for Southtown demolition contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the change order as requested.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the change order in the amount of $232,443 for the remediation of additional asbestos not previously identified in the crawl spaces for the Southtown demolition contract. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That item carries.
Alrighty. Ms. Foster, do you want Cindy to continue with the development, or would you like to bring forth our Holohan partners?
Yeah, we're Holohan.
Okay.
Just as an edit to that. So we approve the change order for Southtown demolition contract. In my verbiage, I only mentioned the additional asbestos. There's also $24,851 for the additional sanitary and gas lines and $32,034 for removal of the retaining wall on University Avenue. So that's a total of, I don't know what the total is. But
468,000.
That's just the change of all change orders with the project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
It's
460, the 468,275 represents the increased contract amount for all change orders to date.
That's all.
Right.
total.
Right. So that item was to
232.
approve the entire change order for the Southtown demolition contract, not just the 232,000. So I
Okay.
just wanted to be clear about that.
So noted.
Are we good on that, attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We have, I'll just hand them over.
You okay to proceed to the next?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. If you like, Ms. Hill, you can introduce Holohan.
Okay. So at this time, we have Holohan representatives who are developer partners for our Villas of Titusville. We have Marcella Roberts and Wynn Yerby. I know I can recognize you under the mask. If we can't have them at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
To Commissioner Hood and the other commissioners, thank you so much for this opportunity to give an update. I think it's been a year since we shared the last update on the Villas at Titusville project. I hope you've had an opportunity to ride by and see how amazing it looks on MLK. It's a drastic change, but we're really excited about what has come forth in that area. So I'm going to give you just a little update on the project, and I also provided just some pictures because I know we have some new commissioners that may not have been around when we first started this project. And so this project is 3 phases. And so I provided just some photos that you can take with you to see just where we started with the 500 units at Loveman Village. And then you'll see some photos from the first phase on Lakeshore, which is the Park at Sydney Drive, and then the 2 phases on the actual site, which is Villas at Titusville and Villas at Titusville 2. So I'll give you just a little update. You have this before you, but I want to hit on a couple of things that are important as it relates to the development. We are complete with all the units and we are ready for occupancy at this time. I think we have, out of the 64 units, I think we confirmed this morning that there were maybe about 19 that were ready to actually sign leases and move in. We have moved in 2 security officers, 2 police officers that will be living on the site in those courtesy units that are available for security. So they are already moved in on the site and are there to provide security. They are excited about being there and excited about the community and all that that will be available at that property. So I just want to bring also to your attention that there were some adjustments to the parcel lines to allow for the sidewalk. I'm sorry. Currently, there was allowance for a sidewalk there when we originally ceded some property to the city for the transit station. However, that we needed to see just a little bit more so that we can make sure that the sidewalk was actually on city property. So we're in the process of making sure that we cede a little more to them so that the sidewalk can remain on city property and not on the property of the development. So we're in that process right now and doing that. We'll have some fencing that will be up, and I think you'll be very pleased with the type of fencing and the way it's going to look. There will also be some landscaping on the outside, so it'll be beautiful along with the fencing that you'll be able to see there. For the Early Learning Center, that is still sitting on HABD's property. It is not a part of the development. So as you ride by, you'll see the development, but you'll see the Early Learning Center there. And you may wonder what's going to happen with that. That is HABD's property. And I'm sure Ms. Foster will be talking about the process of sort of building that into the development as you all move forward. But that is for this board to decide what they will do with that property. So that's where we are with that. And then we are doing there's a slope on the property. And so we're doing some engineering to make sure that that the landscaping is going to be sufficient on HABD's property. And so as we are working with the city on the sidewalks for the phase 2 parcel, then that is something that HABD will need to have discussions about, that adjoining sidewalk that will be on the opposite side of the boulevard. That is HABD's property, not the development. Just to update you on leasing, as I mentioned, we've got about 19 families that are ready to sign leases and to move in, but we are completely occupied at Villas at Titusville 1. And so we'll be working with the staff, our management company, Hollyhand Companies will be working with everyone to make sure that we're continuing to fill any vacancies on that property as well. We have 7 units that are available for veterans, and we are working diligently to identify veterans that are eligible to move into Villas at Titusville 2. That is a part of, we made that commitment as a part of the Federal Home Loan Bank grant that was secured as a part of the financing. And so those 7 units are available for veterans. So we are working diligently with every organization that we can find to identify veterans that will qualify for the 2 and 3 bedroom units that are available at the property. A couple of things. We've had just a couple of challenges. We're excited that the officers are now moving on the property, but as you know, sometimes there can be some security, some challenges with outside individuals imposing upon the property. What we've been able to identify is that very few of the incidents that we've had have been the result of actual clients on the property. We're seeing a lot coming from individuals that are outside of our property. and they're coming onto the property and causing damage and some other challenges. So we have, been in contact with Birmingham Police and other entities to talk about that. But for, this board, we'd like for you to know that that remains a challenge in the area of keeping outsiders outside of the property. We want it to be nice and remain a very nice property for our clients, a place that they would enjoy and enjoy calling home. But we've got to make sure that we're very diligent in keeping outsiders out and coming in and ruining what we've provided for the clients here at Villas at Titusville. Just a couple of things. You have it before you. So if there are any questions around that, then I'll be happy to answer any questions around what we're doing in the security. As I mentioned, we're installing the fencing and we've got everything. We're doing everything that we can do to keep it nice. And we do have guidelines in place for our clients. And I think the clients are very happy with the guidelines that are in place because they've expressed concerns about security as it relates to individuals coming from the outside. So we want them to be at peace knowing that we're doing everything that we can to keep them safe on the property. We do have cameras installed and the cameras have shown the challenges that we've had. We know what's happening because we have cameras installed on the property and the cameras do a really good job of telling the story of who's doing what and where they're coming from. So I just want you to know that that is in place also. A couple of things, as some of you may remember that we had 2 apprentices that started out with us on this project. One was Patrick Franklin and Adrian Gaston. Ms. Gaston has graduated college and she's gone on to bigger and better things and doing great. And we're really proud of her. Patrick is still with us and Patrick has been very, very faithful in working probably over the past 5 years on this project. Patrick worked over at the property over on Lake Shore and he's been with the 2 developments here. So we're in the process of working to identify for Patrick some additional opportunities with Holly Hand so that he can remain on with us and continue working. So we're working through that right now. At some point, we do believe that he will be going over to work on the Southtown project on the construction side of Southtown. And so we're working with him to see how we can get him working on maybe some other projects that we have out of town in the interim until he can go over to Southtown. But I just wanted to give you an update on that because we're really pleased with the apprentices that we have secured from Loveman Village when we started this project. So I think that's it. I'll entertain any questions, but I do want to say this may be our last time before I see you at the next ribbon cutting. So we want to say thank you for all of your support over the years and doing this project, the redevelopment of Loveman Village. In your packet, you'll see where we started and where we are now. And so we're really proud of that. And we also want to thank Ms. Foster because as Ms. Foster mentioned, or Commissioner Chairman Hood mentioned, that this may have been her 3rd time. Mrs. Foster has been with us for the duration of this project. And so we really appreciate all of your support. And whenever we call and we need things, she's always right there to support us. So we really want to publicly say thank you to the commissioners and to Ms. Foster and all of the staff at HABD for the partnership that we have shared with you over, I think, the past 7 or 8 years that we've been working on this. But so that concludes my report and I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Commissioners?
I have a question about the security. So you do have problems going on now with the on the properties?
Yes, we had some challenges throughout construction. We did have security at the property throughout construction, but you may have been aware, I think that was in the paper, that there was a gun battle right outside the property. There have been multiple shootouts throughout the process of building. And one of those shootouts caused significant damage to a unit that completely flooded and we had to go back in and do major renovations due to the gunfire. So we do, have security, but as I mentioned, a lot of this is from the outside. It is not our clients. And so, we do our best to try to control that. But when people outside do things that impact us on the property, then, there isn't a whole lot that we can do. And so we've had some challenges. We've also had some challenges through construction with some break-ins. There were a couple of break-ins where they broke in and stole appliances and some other things out of some of the units once they were, once it was completed. And so we had to go in and kind of redo that. But we're doing everything that we can to make sure that people are safe. As I mentioned, I don't think this is from our clients on the property. I think people are coming from the outside. And so we have security, and we have some security at night to sort of watch that, but they can't see everything. So we're doing the best that we can. So we're hoping that with the two security officers, police officers that are living on the property, that they will be very visible, establish rapport with the clients and make it known that they're there, and people will start to engage and have a sense of community and community involvement and protection for their own homes. And so that's what we envision will happen with the police officers living on site.
Okay, that's good too, to live on site. My thing is, shouldn't you have officers riding around the property? Because we all know the area, you're familiar with the area. You have the cameras are good. But if they see somebody riding around, it's less likely that some of that damage will be done, because thieves and crooks, they know crime. That's their expertise, is crime.
Right.
So they know the cameras a little bit better than you do, probably.
And we do have, we've been working with Birmingham Police Department from the beginning. And so Birmingham Police Department does a really great job of circling the property. They even ride through the development. And so when we're out there on site, we see them riding through. And so they know, what things are going on. And there are times when it's very quiet in the development, but then when something happens on the outside, and if you recall, we've shared our challenges with a couple of things around the property, one being the apartment complex that's next door, that's right behind the funeral home. That's a very challenging complex, and you'll see people, hanging out all the time and everything there. So that presents a challenge. And then we've also had conversations with Councilor Smitherman about the store that's at the back on Goldwire. There tends to be, so you'll see it, you won't see as much in the winter time because it's cold, but now that it's getting warm, I was riding through and you begin to see them hanging out. We suspect that there's some, illegal activity and some other things that are going on back there, but, it takes time. The city can't just, kick them out. So as things happen, they're able to make some decisions to maybe not renew, their permits and things like that. But it's, as I mentioned, the police is very involved. We've talked with the beat cops there. They know us, we know them. And so we're doing all that we can to make sure that the property is safe because it's a beautiful property. People love where they live now and they're excited, and we want them to remain there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you say you do have two security living there on the property?
Yes, ma'am. They live on the
My
property.
question was, what's the agreement with
That's what I was
them?
about to ask,
Yeah.
is living there. I mean.
So it's sort of like, if you're familiar with, HUD's program, the policeman next door, the teacher next door, that type of program. It's the perception of security being there. So they're not hired to police and be there and to, go out and arrest people. That is not what they're there to. They do walk the property and some other things, but I can get you details on kind of what their role is. But as a result, they get to live there because we allowed for the courtesy officers. Their cars will be parked there. So they will know that there is a police presence on the site at all times. However, However, those police officers are not there to work 24 hours and go out and police the property 24 hours a day. That is not the role of the courtesy officer being there.
Okay, and the residents knows that, and also the thieves know that,
The residents know,
that he's not there to arrest
no, no.
or he can't do any crime. Everybody know that.
No, a police officer has the authority to arrest at any time, whether they're on duty or off duty. So they can arrest if something is going on. But what I'm saying is they're not going to be a police officer that's sitting there in a guard shack that is sitting there to monitor everybody as they're coming and going. And so, if that's, that's not what their role is. And so we do, our best with the programs to have officers living on site. And it's been proven that officers being on site with police cars and visible, that there is definitely a decrease in crime and other things that are happening. So we can't do anything about the people that live outside and what happens in other developments, but we're doing the best that we can do with our developments to make sure that we're providing a safe and secure environment for the clients there.
No, that was my question. I was trying to find out the
okay.
agreement.
So,
So,
yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
So for clarity, we have the 2 off-duty police officers, but it's no security in addition to that, right?
other than the
Other than
cameras.
the cameras.
Yes, the cameras,
Okay.
yes. And then also, we have security through the construction phase.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, yes. You had some.
Discussion. My name is Wendy Irby with Holly Hand, and I've had a bit more discussion with Marcel on this. First off, I want to reiterate that we're not discouraged with the property.
Mhm.
I mean, we're pretty pleased with, although we have had some incidents, but we are going to be vigilant. We have on-site security at night during construction, and that's winding up. And now we're going to be transitioning to, and we do plan to bring in some additional security. Although, like I said, we're not discouraged, but we want to be very vigilant, especially here at the beginning with establishing what the rules are. And we've seen with some other complexes that Marcel and I've worked on in the city here, when we've initially complete, still people in the neighborhood think, well, it's just open property. We walk, and it would take us about 6 months to establish, no, this is a private property for the residents. And so I think what we want to stress is that we're going to be very vigilant, especially here at the beginning, now that we're leasing up. We're getting our fencing up.
That was my
And so
next
that's going
question.
to sort of establish, but we're not discouraged, but I think we want to communicate, we're going to be very vigilant here as we go forward. And having the police officers there, we hope really will coordinate working with the local police officers in the area and be very prompt and responsive and stuff. So
And
anyway.
we've seen that when we communicate with our clients at the property, and we'll be having a client meeting with them once they move in to just sort of talk about, the property and talk about things in their lease and what's available and what's being done. And you see more protection, and you see more of them taking ownership of, their living situation. Sure that people aren't doing things because they are responsible for their deals. So you see them taking ownership. Those are some of the things.
Yeah, I just had a question about when you mentioned that the fencing was on par or on course to get settled in. When is that part going to?
The fencing has been ordered and it will be in soon. As soon as it's in, it will go on. So not sure exactly how many weeks it takes, but I know that. Do you know? 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, and so you're imagining that because of that barricade, or is it some sort of fencing that actually keeps people out, or is it just more decorative in terms of
It's
defining the property?
It's fencing and landscaping that deters people.
Okay, got it. And then I just have one question about you said that there are 7 units available for veterans. Are you working with the VA or how are you all doing outreach? And are you doing that within our HABD community first, probably, in
Yes.
terms of that?
Yes.
Okay.
We're working with the VA, we're working with the other organizations that work with veterans and also working with with Kanji and her team, they are reaching out as well. And they actually identified veterans through the waiting list as well.
Okay.
Last month, you guys approved the veterans preference for me. So
Mhm.
it's specific for this time.
Got it. Okay. Put that on there.
Any other questions?
Maybe just put a ribbon on the safety conversation. You guys have been there. Obviously, there's, when you're doing development and it's more of a vacant property or construction site, there's a different set of issues than there are when there are residents, and particularly once things are all finished. But being out there on the property, is there anything structurally on site that you're concerned about that we could do better right now that isn't being done? And then secondarily, is there anything in a perfect world that you would request of the city and others to help on the exterior of the site that could make things better?
I think, I don't think there's anything that and some, everything can always be done. Something can be done better, of course. But just in terms of challenges, I think we're doing, the city is aware of the external challenges that we're surrounding of the property, and we've had conversations around that. So I think they're doing, I hope they're doing the best that they can do to make sure that these, the property and do some of the other things. As we get into the warmer months, the store and all of that traffic and on the weekend, it can be like a party out there. Yeah, like a block party out there with people from everywhere. I don't know if it seems like they come from all over the city. So, we could have, more, if we could maybe talk with the counselors to maybe encourage them to make sure that that doesn't happen, then
I definitely think that's a good idea. We worked on a development over there in 2004, and that same store was giving us problems at that time, and the city was saying they was gonna work on doing something with that. So I do feel like that's a conversation we need to have, because it's actually two stores.
It is.
And I have family that lives right there, and when I say we have a lot of shootings that take place, and I mean, we replaced a lot of windows.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think my only concern would just make sure, being that I don't want the residents or the individuals living there to feel more policed than the element that's trying to be policed. And I just want to make sure that there's some sort of, very clear narrative around that, because I think that a lot of times, even saying, we want them to take pride in where they live, who's saying that they don't, right? The issue is not them taking pride. Sometimes it's, like you said, it's the outside perimeter. And so I think if we can just make sure that our narrative and how we're talking about it, how we're communicating with your, residents, and asking them, what is the best ways in which we talk about it, would just be something that I would want to make sure that we get done.
And I just want to add, we have talked about having a site visit for the board. And so, of course, we been mentioned earlier that we want to start our meetings on site. So I thought it could be considered to kick off with this site, because they do have 2 new community centers on site. And then we also want to talk about that daycare center, which is one of the items that we need to kind of discuss how we'll move forward. It's an open field beside that also, if we need to decide how you want to move with that. So just a recommendation to consider.
Yeah, definitely sooner than later.
Yes.
we welcome that.
Yes.
Sounds good. Ready for the ribbon cutting too.
I know.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Great. So, ma'am, there was no vote for that.
It was just an update.
And so we said we were going to move public safety until after executive session. So at this point in the agenda, we can open the floor for presentation by persons desiring to speak for the Board of Commissioners. We do have a sign-up list, and I see Ms. Davis' name is on the list. So Ms. Davis, we welcome you. Come up to the podium. You did? Oh, okay. We got you.
Good evening.
Good
Evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis, if you'll pull the microphone to you. Thank you.
Thank you. ma'am.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chris, how you doing? Good.
We're presenting you all with a copy of the 24 CFR. We don't want nobody to come and tell you anything. We want you to read it for yourself. And once you do that, if you would like to sit down and have a meeting with the CPAB board and we go over it, it's fine with us. But I want you to learn and know the part that we as the CPAB board plays in public housing so that we can come together and work. This is a joint effort, not, you by yourself or we by ourselves. So what we want you to know is the part that we play. So we can come together and work for the good of the residents.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why we passing out the 24 CFR to you today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, and the other thing, we are getting ready for the boys conference. It's gonna be the last of April and the 1st of May. We're gonna do it for 2 days.
I thought you said
And I
March.
expect to see you guys there.
Oh, it changed. Okay. I had March in my mind because I remember we talked about spring
Yeah, we
break.
changed.
So end of April, beginning of May?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and we're trying to have it at either Miles or Lawson State.
Okay.
And I would love to see you guys there to support the boys.
And we'll have it on the new calendar we've got set up.
Yeah, Ms. Bills
Okay.
created us a new calendar, so
Okay.
we'll make sure that's,
Yes,
it's
keep
not
an eye
already
on
on
that.
there.
Couldn't keep up.
We'll make sure it's on there.
I know.
Thank you for giving me time to do this. And like I said, we want you to know who we are and what we do, so we
Absolutely.
can work better together, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lewis keeps us straight on that.
Yes, she does.
Ms. Merchant, did you have something you want to share?
Got to rock 3 times.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Commissions and other. I want to thank those that came to my Valentine dinner on last month. It was showing love. The next thing will be my birthday. I will be celebrating my 70th birthday, April the 7th at 5 p.m. at the community center. Let me know if you attend. The men are to wear black and white, and the ladies are to wear zebra. And I want to thank Mr. Farmer. I called him one night. I had a problem and he was right there. And I just want to thank him for assisting me when these crazy residents called me, then I called him.
All right.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Merchant. Right. Anybody else like to speak before the board before we go into executive session?
We have a living officer living upstairs. I just explain it to you.
I'm sorry?
Oh, at the Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Anybody on Zoom would needing to speak before the board? Going once, going twice. All right, that is closed. Thank you for your engagement. Now, commissioners, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel and contractual matters. Attorney French, are we in a position to do such?
Yes, sir. And then also for the record, Mr. Chairman, we are going into executive session to discuss security measures, which is just another exception under the Open Meetings Act for executive sessions, as well as potential litigation.
Okay.
And we'll just need a motion to go into executive session. No votes will be taken there. And approximately how long we will, I think, will be in executive session to kind of announce that to the open meeting. And once we come back, there is, I think, other action that we'll take in the open meeting.
Yes. So I will entertain a motion for us to go into executive session. I will say that we could allot 45 minutes for that. It may not take that long, but I would say 45 minutes. No votes will be taken during executive session, but we do anticipate a vote after executive session in open meeting.
Motion to move to executive session for 45 minutes.
It's been moved and properly second that we go into executive session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Terrain. I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Make a motion that we come return to regular meeting, come out of executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we come out of executive session and return to open meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, we are back in the meeting. We have two items that we'd like to vote on. The first item, Ms. Foster, is to approve the agreement for above baseline services with the Birmingham Police Department.
Motion to approve the above baseline.
Well, let Ms. Foster maybe present that, or maybe I'll present it. Either way.
I would like to request the board approval to execute the agreement for the above baseline services with the Birmingham Police Department.
Motion to approve. The above baseline services between HABD and the Birmingham Police Department.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the contract with the Birmingham Police Department for above baseline services. We good, Attorney French? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that item passes. And our final item is to authorize the interim president CEO to execute a final agreement with our former president CEO, David Northern. I will entertain a motion as such.
Motion to authorize interim CEO to execute a final agreement with former CEO David Northern.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we authorize Ms. Foster to execute a final agreement with David A. Northern. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that item carries. I think that was the last item. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.